Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies on Network Television. Today, the 19th of August 2024. It is a rainy Monday morning here in the city of Jos, so do well to keep warm and try to stay dry as well. I am Sarah Elisha Dasham. Of course, you will have to follow us live on Facebook and YouTube. Drop your comment, your views to be part of the program here. I'll be doing the program alongside Rachel. Good morning.
Morning,
How you
Sally.
doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Great. How is the weather, the rain after 2 days of not having so much of rain?
Yes, I mean, tell you, it's great to have the rain because
True.
it's an answered prayer looking
Of
at the
course.
fact that it's still the farming season. So when there's no rain, this is of concern. It doesn't matter how heavy it is or not, the rain should just fall. So seeing the rain this morning, you won't even care about how cold you are or how wet you are. You're
True.
more on the very grateful side that the rain is falling.
Of course, of course. We are so grateful for the rain. All right, let's go straight into the papers, and I will start with the Daily News Hub newspaper. Starting with a big story. Sees presidential jet fallout, where we have Otoni ex-Ogun Governor Omuson fight dead sea over OPIC land dispute. With the writer saying Chinese firm not Omuson only victim, I lost 100 million naira to revoke license, says Otoni. Otoni is suffering from entitlement mentality. He has no case. Omuson is counters that. You can do well to read more detail of that story inside the paper. I was accused of using my wife for money ritual coming from Obi Kubana. You can read detail in the paper. Disclosed National Assembly monthly running costs. Serap challenges Apabio and Abbas. I'm not contesting presidency in 2027, says Gandoji, where there was this poster showing him and running for the presidential election in future. So here he's coming out to say that these are all work of people who are working against him. You can do well to read detail of that in the paper. Professor Azige emerges new Asaba. I take that story again. Professor Azige emerges the new Asaba of Asaba. You can do well to find detail of that in the paper. We're still investigating cross-border crime suspect. Bashir is saying that. You can find that inside the paper. Military Lasma clash over planned closure of Lagos Road. Coming from the police, we are set to arrange reverse bumper. And we have Vietnam-based businessman excrete 88 wraps of cocaine in NDLEA custody as agency intercept drugs in noodles at the MMIA. Refugee Commission NGO launch awareness initiative in IDP camps. Still on the Daily News Hub newspaper, ECOWAS intensify effort to stop Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso exit. The last story on the paper, I have been threatened over reforms in power sector coming from the minister, and that's all on Daily News Hub.
On Nigerian Tribune, Edo PDP alleges police harassment, arrest of party members. Don't bring us into your politics, a statement from the police. PDP abandoning campaign for mischievous propaganda. APC is accusing presidential jet seizure. Another can of worms open. Amosun Tommy trade wars over OPIC land investment. Disclosed National Assembly running cost of face legal action. Serap tells Akpabio and Abbas. We are not owing foreign oil traders 6.8 billion naira. This is a clarification coming from NNPCL. Federal government $1 trillion economy. SEC rolls out initiative to attract new listing. Details can be found on page 6. The big story on Nigerian Tribune: uncertainty over federal government plan to boost food production. Governors yet to provide plan. They are working on it. Coming from a presidential spokesman. Reno Mokri 2OB, why insecurity should not be politicized. Nigeria's public health in need of urgent improvement. Statement from Tomori. May June Waski High School candidates can get withheld result released faster. This is a report from WAEC to help students whose results have been withheld so far. Businessman has created 88 wraps of cocaine as NDLEA intercepts drugs in noodles at MMIA. The writer says recovers 6.2 billion naira worth of codeine bottles at One port. Arrest 70-year-old man, others in raid of Ekiti and Ogun forest. Posers over new law to extend IGP's tenure. Details can be found on page 2, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Right on the Abuja Inquirer newspaper. Again, Obasanjo tackles country's leaders, blames them for backwardness. You can start reading that on the front page and continue on page 6. Wike's 365 days of victories and woes. You can read details of that in the paper. Abuja farmers get free fertilizers to boost food production. Coming from the NUP, some Nigerian retirees receive 500 naira monthly pension. And you want to know who are those Nigerian pensioners that are receiving something as low as 500 naira. Detail found on page 8. New class of fat cells makes people healthier. New class of fat cells makes people healthier. You can read that on page 13. And the issue of lower food prices, Abuja resident relief, but grown over fuel supply. You can start reading that on the front page and continue in the paper. Coming from NNPCL, we remain largest taxpayer, denies $6.8 billion debt. You can find detail of that inside the paper. And that's all on the Abuja Inquirer newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, Ohanize extols Obasanjo Sanwo-Olu for slamming Igbo must go promoters. The big story, IGP's tenure, new law sparks tension in police. Seized presidential jet, Amosun Utomi fight over cancelled contract. In Kaduna, troops kill 2 terrorists, recover arms, motorcycles, foil terrorist attack. Bisman has created 88 wraps of cocaine as NDLEA intercepts drugs in noodle at MMIA. Self-centered leadership running Nigeria, Obasanjo is says fixing leadership crisis key to achieving national progress, calls for reforms. Again, PDP APC trade wars over alleged harassment, unlawful arrest in Edo by police. Petrol scarcity worsens as federal government marketers trade blame. Commuters stranded long queues at filling stations. Delta rises to 74 in Benue attacks. And a picture where we can see children choirs performing at the Apostolic Faith Church during the camp meeting concert and 80th anniversary at the Apostolic Faith Tabernacle in Ibesa, Ogun State. This happened at the weekend, and that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, fuel queues resurface in Lagos amid stock shortage. Detail found on page 8. FRS target 19.4 trillion naira. Seek legal framework for cryptocurrency taxation. On the issue of drought, Kogi government AFAN seek divine intervention. You can read detail of that on page 5. And also we have Otomi Omusan trade tackles over contract violation. I was a victim of Omusan's violation of contract terms. This is coming from Otomi. Otomi suffering from an entitlement mentality, coming from Senator Omusan. Data found on page 2. Serapto Pabio Abbas disclosed National Assembly running calls for face illegal action. You can read that in the paper. And as well, we are seeing Tinubu to depart Abuja for France today. Detail found on page 2. Here we have a picture story, scene of flooded farmlands as a result of the downpour at Fukaya local government area of Gombe State, where we're seeing where there's so much rain somewhere, and then we're seeing Kogi State complaining about the drought. You can find detail of the stories inside the paper, and that's all on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, Serapto Akpabio and Abbas disclose monthly running cost of National Assembly. NNPC blames distribution challenges on scarcity, and independent marketers sell at 950 naira a litre. OPIC leash Amosun Utomi bicker over contract violation. The big story on the paper, why grains importation won't happen soon by stakeholders. 1 month gone already as federal government fines-tune policy. Customs await list of importers, stakeholders divided on policy. 100 tons capacity excludes our members. This is coming from Rimfan. You can see details on page 20, and also a list of food items covered by executive order. We have husked brown rice, beans, millet, green sorghum, maize, and wheat. Still on the paper, medical students abduction. Governor Alia, NMA, Health Ministry, Tax Security agents on rescue. A minimum wage. We won't accept unauthorized recruitment into agencies. This is an assurance from the federal government. On bad economy, drop in passenger traffic unsettles domestic airlines. Azinge emerges 14 Asaba of Asaba designate. Details can be found on page 12. We have a sport column on page 30 where we see CAF Championship League. Rangers, Remo Stars begin with slim wins, and that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Otomi Omusan at loggerheads over contract violation of 200 million naira data found on page 5. Abducted Anambra commissioner wife regained her freedom. How unpredictable exchange rate for cargo clearance could jeopardize custom revenue target. This is a report coming from the CPPE. As well, here we are the largest contributors to federal government tax revenue. Report coming from NNPCL Limited. NDLEA detained businessman with 88 wraps of cocaine hidden in noodles at the Lagos airport. The big story for the paper say alleged 21 million naira running cost syrup demands probe into National Assembly financial mismanagement. Tell the National Assembly to stop paying running costs into personal accounts. More detail found on page 21. As well, we see Adeleke Dynasty hosts Thanksgiving service for his late mom, donate 1 billion naira to the church. You can read that on page 23, and that's all on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Independent newspaper, banks recapitalization, low purchasing power locks out retail investors from rights issue. Edo Guba poll PDP raises the alarm over arrest of party chieftains by police. Rivers crisis, police unveil prime suspect in hotel attack, trail APP secretariat arsonist. You can start with the details on the front page. I'm not eyeing Tinubu's job, says Ganduje. Reps ask AMCON to go after debtors irrespective of social status. I suffered same fate as the Chinese firm under Amosun. This is coming from Pat Utomi. Utomi was blacklisted by Ogun Assembly, says Amosun. Details can be found on page 29. Benue tops child trafficking list in Nigeria for 3 consecutive years. Tinubu travels to France today. Alleged 21 million naira jumbo pay account for running cost, Serap tells the National Assembly. NNPCL denies owing international oil traders $6.8 billion. And that's all the news on Daily Independent newspaper.
Where we're seeing that child trafficking is coming. You know, I thought that this story by now we'll see that it's going down, but it's not going down.
It's not.
You recall last week we saw the issue of rape, just where we think that, people are becoming more enlightened about what it's all about, even though we cannot stop certain people who choose to be on, I don't know the word to use for them, but just choose to be barbaric about certain things and then act like animals. But then here we're seeing the issue of child trafficking, and then Benue being topping the list for 3 consecutive years. There was a time where it was in Edo State. I remember we had a number of soap operas trying to tell us, enlightenment.
Yes,
I clearly remember the ones we were watching back then in one of the TV stations while we were younger, about how all of this, mostly girl trafficking, used for prostitution and all of that. And here we're seeing child trafficking. In the same Benue State where we're seeing the number of attacks, every blessed paper we read, every blessed day, it seems as if the numbers are increasing. And it seems as if the government of the day is not really doing something about it, because what will make a state to be topping the list for 3 consecutive years?
Yes.
What are you doing to make sure that you reduce the number? How are people coming in and out? Like, a number of things is happening. If you're going to talk about rape, we've had a number of them in Benue State. state as well. Now, I'm not trying to pick a state out and say this is what is happening, but I'm just trying to question the government of the day there. What are you doing? I know that might be his first year of being the governor, but then you must know that some of the track record of what have been happening in your state, and what are you planning to do as the government of the day to say that, you know what, the issue of child trafficking is reduced. And when we're talking about child trafficking, it has various forms and shapes.
Yes.
Various forms and shapes. So I'm just hoping that the government of the day will do something, because each time I see this, and I might get very emotional about this, because these are people that were supposed to have, they are still under the care of their parents, and then you wonder where their parents are when certain things like this are happening. So might be happening in Benue, but I know that this is happening across the country in various states. They might not be topping the list, but it's happening. Therefore, we need to question the government. What are you doing to reduce the number of child trafficking going on presently in the country?
Of course, Sarah, this is an emotional story. There's no any other approach about it that being emotional, in the sense that you can imagine what these children go through, and of course there is nobody that would willingly want to be in such a situation. At times these parents also, we can point fingers and all of that, but most of the times these parents are giving hope that their children will be taken care of, and looking at the position in which they are, perhaps they see that there will be a better future for that child ahead. So this is on every level. We can say, why are parents not staying with their children? Why are they not giving? Why are they giving them out, and all of that? Regardless, if a system is failing, it is failing, and it is what it is. And it's not about picking on Benue State. If you have been topping the list for 3 executive years, then it is not a positive outcome. First of all, the question is, what have the government been doing so far? Because the numbers, you should at least not top the table after three consecutive years. If some amount of work has been put in, then perhaps the numbers should have gone low, and you shouldn't be number 1 in that. So the question is, and when certain things come on the paper, is to charge the government, is to ask them, what are you doing? And that's what we are doing at the moment, asking the governor, what is the way forward? This might be a problem you have met. Regardless, what is your plan as the current administration of Benue to do concerning child trafficking? And just as you said, it faced many, and one of the most rampant is child brutality. We see it we see it on the news, we see it on our papers. We've witnessed it. You don't have to go far. You've seen it. You've heard of it. You've had a neighbor that have maltreated children. And when you look at it, these children come far from home, away from their family, with no help, nobody to look out for them. And they are being humiliated, child labor of different forms, maltreated, put on hunger strike and all of that. And we see this happening. And I know in the plateau there was a time where it was on the increase, but it was taken seriously. I remember there was no time you wouldn't look at the news during the weekend files and all of that, and there are cases of children going through such difficult situation in the hands of families that they are being given to take care of. And I know over the years we don't see more of that on the news anymore. So we believe that it has reduced drastically, because we've become our neighbors. I don't think I would see such and say it's not my business. I would speak out and talk about it, except if I don't see it. But if I see it personally, I will talk, because no child deserve to go through. So I just hope that should also be the approach in Benue State, that people speak out. But if it becomes a common practice, then it starts to be normalized. And I believe that this could also be a reason why Benue keeps topping the chart, because when the numbers keep increasing, it means people are accepting it and normalizing that kind of lifestyle. But when people don't accept it and speak up, not only will the government play a role, but this is a community problem. You depend on your neighbor to report certain situations, because the government are not in your doorstep. It's about now neighbors speaking out, helping a child out, and making sure that certain things reduce to a large extent.
Of course, and that's why we have NAPTEP that actually concentrate on all of that. And just like you said, there's no how you sit and be quiet, and that's why we have a law act in Nigeria that state that anybody that is found maltreating a child or getting a child involved in all of this child trafficking will face 10 years imprisonment. But then how many of them have actually been, have the law actually caught up with them? It's question. While you were talking and you were talking about the weekend fire, like let's remember there was this case we had in Benue precisely, Justice for Nome. And remember, just the way you said, it was intended that the auntie was supposed to take care of her. But then this girl was being raped continuously. She was used more like a sex object to the uncle. Eventually, this girl died in the cost of it. And that is why I said we have this scene in various forms. How about hawking? How about begging? We've had encounter. You've seen all of this children coming to you, auntie, please give me this. And then the parents are somewhere hiding, pushing these kids to do that. What is the government doing about that? Remember during the Goodluck Jonathan's administration, he tried to make an elementary school to be able to leave these kids off the street, to get them something. I don't know, this school is right now is silent, even though we had that kids in Abuja where they say trying to send them to various parts where they belong to. But I'm just trying to bring these different references to let the government know there is something you can do. If you have stated a law that whoever is found doing this, they should do it. So that we even have our law enforcement agency not doing something about it. It's either you are being bribed and then you push all of these cases under the carpet. And the more certain people do not face the law, we're giving room for more people to see that they can get away with certain crime. And so I just hope the government will do, just like you said, this is something very emotional. This is something that we need to lay emphasis for the government to know that we are not happy when we say, especially Benue State. So I'm calling on the governor of Benue State to please do something about these cases. Well, I guess that's all on Daily Independent. We shall be looking at the next paper, which is the Leadership newspaper. Constitution not a Nigerian's problem, coming from Sule Lamido, and we've said this over and over. The problem is for those who are refusing to follow what is in the Constitution. Detail found on page 24. Amusan fault autonomy over claims on the presidential jet seizure. He detail found on page 19. Fact check here say, what did Kanu's lawyers say about seized presidential jet? And trending, we have gunmen attack police checkpoint in Anambra State. Both stories can be found on page 2. Excuse me. Metric Energy under fire for importation of bad fuel from Malta. With the writer here saying data reveals importation of substandard PMS diesel jet A1 from Russia. More detail can be found on the front page and on page 8. Tenure elongation, uncertainty over police leadership. And the big story here, 1 year after food insecurity persists despite state of emergency, where we have the FAO project at 1.5 million Nigerians at risk of acute hunger. Stakeholders call for more aggressive approach. You can find detail of that inside the paper. And still we are having coming from Ganduji, where he's saying, I'm not contesting for president in 2027. Don't blame leaders, IBP tell Nigerians. So who are Nigerians to blame for certain things that are happening? You can find that on page 6. Tinubu leaves for France today on a work stay. You can find that on page 7. Death toll in Benue, attack hit 75, detailed on page 7. Picture story, collapse bridge in Adamawa and Borno State, where we can see what's happening, people standing and watching. I hope they don't get too close and then end up being carried away by the water. You can do well to find more detail of any story that is of interest to you in the paper.
A New Telegraph newspaper, derivation, oil producing states received 711.3 billion naira amid facility decay. OPS seeks executive order to peg customs duty rate at 1,000 naira to a dollar. 2025 budget, Shettima asks State House agency to adhere to extant laws. I'm a chronic believer in one Nigeria, Olukoya is saying. Why Nigeria should jettison 1999 constitution by lawyers. NDLEA to varsities make drug testing compulsory for admission. The big story on the paper, as far as scarcity bites harder, price hits 980 naira in Abuja, 850 naira in Lagos. NNPC Limited blames it on distribution challenges, bans product sales in jerry cans, and others false report on $6.8 billion indebtedness to international traders. You can find details of the big story on page 2 and 8. Ohanizi presidency, contestant seeks to reclaim 2021 mandate, says he's rightful winner. Civil War veterans tackle federal government over unpaid pension. 21 million naira jumbo pay. Serap asks National Assembly to disclose legislature's running cost. Abducted Anambra commissioner wife released after 24 hours in captivity. Still on New Telegraph, presidential jet saga, Chinese firm not only victim of Amazon's contract violation. Statement from Tommy. He's sulking because I refuse to feed his entitlement mentality, the ex-governor of Ogun is saying. Food shortage, extreme hunger looms in Benue as drought persists. Muslims pray for rainfall as crops wither in Osun. There is a study, high BPA levels increase prostate cancer risks. More details can be found on page 27, and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
Well, we hope that NMPC is doing something about the fuel scarcity that is biting. So. I think here in Jos, as of on Saturday, a liter was 9.50 in one of the filling stations in town. And you could tell that some of the filling station depends on the availability. And here we're seeing that NMPC is talking about banning sale of petrol in Jericho. And I hope that we'll have a body that makes sure this is being followed. Because it's one thing for the NNPCL to come out and say we are banning it. It's another thing for us to see that actually it's being banned really. So I look forward to seeing the NNPCL doing just as they have said, banning it, because I think that is where we have the issue of black marketers taking advantage of it. Now you hear that a liter is 1,000 or even 1,500, and because people have no choice, because you need to, use it for either business or for one thing or the other, people have to purchase it. So I hope we'll have a body that will make sure it's being banned, because I think that is a concern. If the queues are increasing, the NNPCL needs to do something about the distribution so that we can have our lives normal again, because eventually transport fare will really increase if this persists. So we look forward to seeing that the NNPCL eventually.
And also, as much as there is scarcity, but one of the most contributing facts to transport fee going high is the black market. And that is a fact, because we have people who are in transport business. We are looking at, for example, here on the plateau, we are looking at keke napep and drivers and all of that. And they don't, if they wait for the queue, they will not make anything at the end of the day. The whole day will go by and they will not be in business, because they need to be out early and all through the day. It's a business for them to see some profit at the end of the day. So they rather go to these roadside jerry cans, fuel sellers and all of that. And at the black market is over 1,000. You will hear them complaining they bought it 1,100. And depending on how much, if the scarcity keeps going and increasing, you see it keeps going high. And whether we like it or not, this directly affects what commuters are going through when it comes to this scarcity, because even at the time where the fuel pump price was kind of stable and we're seeing it at 700 and a little bit above 700, we still had the price of transportation going high, and it's as a result of all of these things. So despite there being a scarcity, we just hope that the NNPC just don't talk, but takes in action concerning making sure that this black market, those selling in jerry cans, don't thrive, because they affect activities negatively. But who can you also blame at the end of the day, where we have this fuel station also having higher profit selling to these jerry can buyers and all of that? So I think it's intertwined in a lot of ways, but something can be done about it at the end of the day. And I just hope that the NNPCL don't just speak but act towards it.
Of course. Well, before we continue further with the paper review, we'd love to take a break. Quite a lot is happening here. The saga coming from Sarah proving how much is the running cost for the Senate. That's talking about both the Senate and the House of Reps, as well the National Assembly, as well we're seeing the issue of the presidential jet, where we are having the exchange of word, whether there was a contract violation whatsoever that led to the CSTAT. And then we also have the issue of drought. Actually, most part of the country is being affected by drought, and we're seeing that if that continues or if that persists, there might be a food crisis. So we hope that something will be done, and we hope that the rain falls. So when we come back from the break, we will continue the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Welcome back, still the Dailies. If you're just joining us, and we have been looking at a number of stories where we've seen that flood have affected about 10 states, as well as seen that drought has also affected some states. As well, we're looking at the president leaving the country today to France for a work stay. And then we have other stories on the paper, the issue of the seized presidential jet, and then also with Syrup suing National Assembly concerning the running costs. These are some of the major stories on the paper, so we hope you will just stay tuned with us as we continue to review the papers. I still have Rachel with me. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's continue with the review, looking at the Punch newspaper. NNPCL battles deepening for scarcity, black market booms, detail found on page 23. And on the presidential jet, we have Abiodun consult federal government as autonomy tackles Omusan, detail on page 42. Federal government eyes $2 billion from local dollar bond sale, detail on page 26. Fake degrees, federal government orders varsities to submit matriculation lists. So for those who have not gotten their matriculation number, it's important you get that so that you will not be tagged that your certificate are fake. Detail found inside the paper. Food crisis may worsen as flood hit 10 states, with the rider farmers grown as flood ravaged farmlands in Sokoto, Kano, Kebbi, and 7 other states. SEMA seeks government help as drought dry up crops in 4 states, 31 states risks flooding. Detail found on page 2. Here we have police detective hunt 20 varsity student abductors. Vietnam-born businessman excrete 88 cocaine wraps. Civil servant screening on IPPIS portal ends on Friday. Detail found on page 24. Inside the paper, we have the picture story here. Officials of the National Emergency Management Agency and State Emergency Management Agency distributed relief materials to flood victims in Damaturu, Yobe State on Sunday. Detail found inside the paper. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, fuel cubes linger as traders await Dangote NNPCL refineries. Account for National Assembly running costs, Serap tells Apabio Abbas. Utomi and Mosun trade wars over contract violation amid calls for jet probe. On monkeypox, Tomari laments Nigeria's poor preparation for outbreak. And that's all in news on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, let's look at the next paper, which is the Metrics newspaper. Custom import exchange rate, CPPE faults CBN intrusion into trade policies. Urges Tinubu to fix the rate at 1,000 naira to $1 amid cargo throughput decline. Detail found inside the paper. Man City dominate Chelsea 2-0 to begin the title defense on high. And so for those who have been, this is the beginning of the EPL. So you can do well to find more detail of that inside the paper on page 20 for our sport lovers. Contract revocation, Omusa and Otomi trade tackles. It's karma at work. Otomi reveals how Omusan cancelled 200 million naira contract. You have no case. Ogun Assembly blacklisted you as enemy of state. Omusan fires back. You can find detail of both stories on page 3. alleged $6.8 billion indebtedness. NNPCL Limited denies owing international oil traders. Sanwo-Olu inaugurate Moshi Red Line flyover. You can find that on page 3. The big story on National Assembly running costs and salaries. Sarah blows hot. Issues 7-day ultimatum to Akpabio and Abbas to reveal deadline, the detail, or issues 7-day ultimatum to Akpabio and Abbas to reveal details, or says it is Trevisan fundamental breach of official duties to fix salaries, demands return of any misuse or mismanaged running costs and allowances. Detail found on page 2. President Tinubu jets out to France today and first scarcity bites hard in Lagos State. Detailed on page 3. Bandit abduct over 10 in Zamfara community. You can find that in the paper. We have picture story, which is a courtesy visit to the Lagos State governor. You can do it to grab the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On First News newspaper, self-centered leadership hindering Nigeria's development, Obasanjo is saying. Davido's father donates 1 billion naira to church in Lagos. Anambra commissioner wife freed from kidnappers den. Africa's sovereign debt reaches $1 trillion. UNECA warns of deepening fiscal crisis. Stay away if you have no business. Tinubu restricts UNGA attendance to authorized officials. The big story: false scarcity hits Lagos hard. Long queues, price hikes, government crackdown. Serap demands National Assembly running cost disclosure, threatens legal action against Akpabio and Abbas. I have no plans to run against Tinubu, Ganduje is saying amid campaign poster controversy. Devastating floods in Katsina, over 250 homes destroyed, residents left in despair. We have picture story from left to right. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and Senator Victor Ume attend the wedding of Ume's daughter, Chidinma Uzomaka, to Obina Cyril Ifeanyi, held in Lagos on Saturday. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at the Voice of Liberty. Tinubu, Vice President Ganduje to host 3,000 youths on Young Leaders Summit. Detail found inside the paper. Huriwa decries total collapse of governance, kidnapping, and killings. Detail found inside the paper. Buhari's government pre-sold our oil to smaller foreign refineries on loan. This is coming from Kachuku. You can find inside the paper. Hashtag Embedded Governance. Right group plans to occupy Abuja High Court today. Demand release of detained protesters. The Take It Back movement, TIB, a human rights and pro-democracy organization, has called for a solidarity gathering at the Federal High Court in Abuja today to demand the immediate release of the hashtag End-Bad Governance protesters who are facing charges. You can read more detail of that inside the paper. Ganduje distanced himself from 2027 presidential campaign posters. And on hunger, palliative going into wrong hands, cleric tells the federal government, therefore they need to do the right thing by making sure that this food that is being sent will get to the right people that need it. Account for each senator's 21 million naira running costs of phase litigation, Serap tells Akpabio. And then looking at the Northeast, soldiers fighting terrorists decry inadequate food provision. So I think the government needs to do something by making sure that our security guys, talking about our soldiers, the police are well taken care of, especially their welfare, so that they'll be able to fight. You can imagine, Richard, going to the war front on an empty tummy is really, really bad, because they are also human first and foremost before they are army. So I hope that our soldiers will not be starved to death, that the government will do something to make sure they are being provided with adequate food so they can eat and have the strength to be able to fight, terrorism in the state.
Just going back memory lane a little bit, and I remember when there were certain issues on the plateau, and then we had more military checkpoints and all of that, all their huts. I can't remember the exact time and what was the situation then, but I remembered soldiers getting food supply. Like literally, they had the government of that time
dropping at each checkpoint to drop their meal.
And all of that. And I know these are city soldiers, let me put it like that. And it might be different for those who are out there. We're looking at the Northeast and in the war front. Either way, there's no excuse. I think those out there need more of the food than those who are in a more privileged environment and all of that. But it only tells you one thing, that when certain things are not functioning in an economy, everybody tends to suffer from it. There is food scarcity. It means even the soldiers out there are at risk of being hungry. And this is very dangerous. More than anything, you and I always talk about the welfare, and we'll never stop insisting about on that, because it is important. They cannot function on an empty stomach. So either way, we have soldiers out there that even if they have the skills, even if they have the intelligence, combat skills and all of that, hunger can take that away from them. That is a serious thing. And the government needs to prioritize where they take their resources to. And rather than buying the time of your people with palliative, why are you buying all of these grains out of the market, and then soldiers are starving on the war front and out there? It only tells that there's so much that the government can do, but they don't. The priority is a problem in virtually every administration. So far, so good. And we've seen it misplaced. When you're buying out the grains, I hope it's so that the soldiers out there don't go on a hunger strike, rather than just trying to buy the sympathy of citizens whom are not on the war front and will thrive more better than the soldiers out there, whether they get a palliative or not. I just hope that the government sees it from this point of view, and next time when we see the government buying out food in the market, is not to come and give it as palliative to stop the people from going on strike or anything, but that food is made available for our heroes out there, trying to see that terrorism is not there, trying to see that every Nigerian is safe.
You could imagine, Rachel, that it will now be captured in a newspaper that one of our soldiers died out of hunger. It will be a slap.
It will be a
So
slap.
I hope, just like you said, that the government will do something. They are out there trying to protect, make sure there's sanity in the country. So it will really, really not be fair for them to be starved to them. Ideally, they are supposed to be given everything that they need to be comfortable.
Of course.
So that when they are faced with any challenge, you see them, they are up and about. Sometimes you see that most times either all these people that are passing for their firewood, maybe see them with sugar cane. So on a
Giving them
checkpoint, they're
something,
dropping
yeah.
it for them just as a way of appreciating them. But I think that the government should do something to take care of them. Well, that's all of the voice of liberty.
On the Nation newspaper, petrol scarcity brings back queues to Lagos, Abuja and cities. NNPCL blames it all on distribution hitches. Marketers raise prices to between 950 naira and 1,000 naira per litre. And we have a picture story where we can see in search of petrol, a filling station in Lagos. Yesterday, the NNPC Limited regrets the tightness in fuel supply witnessed in some parts of Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory, which is as a result of distribution challenges. If this is a queue in Lagos, I can imagine what other states are going through. Still on the paper, lobbying for IG better concede hots up, uncertainty in police. Why food prices are dropping by farmers and traders. Utomi and Mosun clash over ex-governor's policies. Aidatiwa pledges more bite for Omotekun cause. Experts project oversubscription for federal government $500 million bond offer. There is a report that says the dollars held in domiciliary accounts in Nigerian banks are in excess of $20 billion. These represent potential investors. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 5. Tinubu improving security, don't politicize it, Umokri tells Peter Obi. Oil and gas operators are cutting away the profits, leaving Nigerians with pains. Tinubu off to France today. Shetima challenges agencies on budget 2025. And that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Business Day newspaper. From Russia to Malta, how Matrix Energy import dirty petrol. You can find More of that. Who is the Matrix Energy? What they do and how are they involved in all of this? Detail found in the paper. Nigeria wastes gas enough to power 3 billion household. You can find that, and I think we've been talking about that, especially talking about gas flaring, and then a number of people have been complaining about that. We've also talked about that several times on the business and finance program. As well, still on the paper, we have $1.5 billion Lagos-Ibadan line fails to lift rail haulage. You can find detail of that in the paper. Nigeria eyes revenue from $56.7 billion crypto market. The business odysseys of Oba Oteku, a journey of vision, valor, and victory. You can find that on the back page of the paper, and that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, Leverkusen coach defends Boniface after middle finger scandal. Osimhen swap deal in doubt due to 11th hour decision. Desert delight to inspire Rangers Cup victory. The big story, Lookman shakes Atlanta, demands PSG transfer. Opts out of today's match against Liège as Saudi Al Ahly battles PSG for Lookman. Man City ready to double Rodri wages to keep Real Madrid. You can find details on page 2. Leicester City face double point deduction for alleged breaches. Sterling seeking clarity over Chelsea future. Details can be found on page 4. Dalino discharges from hospital after horror ankle injury. Gundogan submits transfer request. Real Madrid rejects another £100 million plus Saudi offer for Militao. You can find details inside the paper. Vinicius Jr. close to Champions League Ballon d'Or double award. Arteta heaps praise. Saka compares him to Messi. Details can be found at the back page. And then Usyk versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury 2 gets tentative December 21 date. You can find details at the back page. And then I was able to also watch the UFC match where we can see Du Plessis beating Israel Adesanya. It broke my heart though, but then it was a good match, and I think Du Plessis had a better run most of the rounds. And that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
Well, and that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this.
You're welcome, Celia.
Thank you to our viewers, our supporters, and to every member of the crew for making this program prompt on air. Until we come your way again, please do have a wonderful Monday.